Welcome to the Arcade Era Power Hour, episode 17, where we talk about some sort of green donkey.
You mean the alternate color of Donkey Kong in Smash Brothers?
Right, that's what I mean.
Yes,
Um, I was
or the
actually.
DK64 multiplayer. That was really good.
I didn't make that up. Baby Bowser calls him a green donkey.
Oh yeah, no, he calls him a Gween Donkey
Oh, you're
because he
right.
has a lisp.
Gween. Ooh, hello. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I get your reference. Anyway, hello,
Um,
I'm Milo,
hello, I'm Gibbon. Um,
and this is the Arcade Era Power Hour podcast,
it
where we
super is.
discuss the Donkey Kong arcade and its related universe of media.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair way to describe it?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm trying to have some kind of set up for what this whole thing is, but I haven't
Yeah,
actually settled on something.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But in that vein, today we will be talking about the recent, well, less recent than it was a bit ago. While we were in the middle of recording our set of episodes about the old television shows of yore, there was a big leak of old Nintendo betas and prototypes and whatnot. And
The
amongst
Giga
them,
Leak, they're calling it now.
oh, are they? Okay. Amongst all that was some Yoshi's Island prototypes that had like world maps and slightly different graphics and whatnot. But an even earlier prototype, when it was a Donkey Kong game
Mm.
called Super Donkey, or at least that's what the folder it's kept
Mm.
in the leak is called. And yeah, it's kind of crazy how Yoshi's Island started out as a Donkey Kong game.
Well, should we do news before we get into it?
Oh, you're right. You're super right. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm over eager. But yes, we have news to talk about.
Yeah, so that's what the topic will be in a minute, but first there's a bit of follow up to do.
Mm-hmm.
My first piece of follow up I wanted to raise is a sort of regret I had from the last episode when we covered the live action segments of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. It was a long, rambling discussion, but a very satisfying one, I think, as far as I'm concerned.
I'd agree with that.
But yeah, because we sort of jumped all over the place, I missed one of the big topics that I wanted to mention. So we
Ooh.
won't go into it too much, but we didn't cover as well as I would like Mario and Luigi's family.
Mm.
And you can basically get the whole story by going to the Mario wiki page entitled Mario and Luigi's Family. But I know Gibbon brought up Aunt Maria and Aunt Luigina. No, I've got it wrong already. There's Mama Mario, who you meet a few times, and her sister, Aunt Luigina. There's Mario and Luigi's cousins, Marianne and Luigina. But there's other characters who come up, like Grandma Mario, who Mario says he's named after, which is an interesting bit of family history, as well as their niece, Marilyn, who is played by Moon Unit Zappa, who is actually credited as herself at the end of the episode, strangely.
Hmm.
But in the
Interesting.
episode, yeah, it's weird. In the episode, it's clear that she's their niece, Marilyn.
Hmm.
It sort of leaves open about where the connection is coming from there, because it implies that Mario and Luigi have another brother or sister. She does mention her mother, so it's sort of leaning towards the fact that there's this unseen Mario sister.
Mm.
And she also mentions an Uncle Troy, but that could be on another side of the family. It's all a bit vague. But yeah, like that's probably the big thing, is there's a previously unseen Mario sister. Do you have any theories
Oh.
about where else we might have seen her or anything?
See, I was gonna point at a brother until you mentioned the sister aspect because, like, there's that one Mario lookalike with the V on his hat from the manga, and there's always like I've never thought Wario was a brother. I always thought he
No.
was a cousin.
Yeah.
um, and oh man, but I don't know about sister. Hmm, that's a little wild. Do you have
Yeah,
any?
it's great food for thought. Well, it's fair to say that the Mario series is pretty lacking when it comes to female characters. So there's nothing that really comes to mind, but perhaps it bears further contemplation.
Yeah. Hmm. Obviously, this is where the Gianna sisters come in.
That's a good theory. I like it. Yeah, that was Gianna and Maria, right?
Ooh, yeah, actually.
And Maria would be a family name in this case. Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I like this. Let's go
Yeah.
with that for now.
Okay, yes. Let's go with
Cool.
that.
So yeah, that wraps up the Super Show discussion. Almost actually. There is one more thing. While checking out my YouTube notifications, since I uploaded the last episode, I was told that there was a comment on the last video.
Ooh.
So we have like a viewer response for our previous episode.
Someone watched our video.
Yeah, we get double-digit views. It's pretty cool.
Ooh. Ooh.
So a user called Jay Engels commented on the Super Show episode. VHS releases of the series definitely kept the licensed music. I distinctly recall Danger Zone playing during the Brooklyn Bound episode, the other episode with Salvador Drainado, because it was my introduction to the song, lol. I kick myself every day for not holding on to those tapes. So this is confirmation of something that we kind of brought up briefly in the show, which is that the original broadcast had these licensed music tracks over the action, but they cut them out for the later DVD, which is also true for the YouTube uploads, the official ones.
Yeah, that just happens sometimes, and
Yeah, licensing.
well, you know, it's good to have series preserved in some form. And in, you know, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, it's not too big of a deal. Some series are just utterly gutted without the licensed music they were intended
like
to
Beavis
have.
and Butthead or Daria.
Yeah, I was thinking of Daria specifically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with Beavis and Butthead, they're directly commenting on the music, so it's a bit more
Yeah.
important to the actual show. I think they left one licensed track in Daria because they were singing along to it. It's when Jake and Tom and one of Jamie, Joey, or Jeffy, they're like taking a raccoon out to drop it off, and they're listening to Whoomp There It Is in the car and singing along with it.
But yeah, still interesting. Danger Zone.
So the VHS releases had the licensed music, and then they were removed for the DVDs. That's the chronology there.
Okay.
Cool. So what else has happened since the last episode?
As part of the big recent Mario 35th anniversary, not Mario, Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary announcements, one of the celebratory things they're doing is a little Mario Kart Tour event, which starts at the time of this recording in about
2 days.
Less. It's 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 8th. So that
I think mine updates at
about
4 p.m.
So it'll be about 30 hours from now.
Yeah, exactly.
They're adding.
Well, that's irrelevant because the upload is not going to be.
Yeah, I said at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
They're adding SNES Sprite Mario and SNES Sprite Donkey Kong Jr. to Mario Kart Tour, and the little announcement blurb on Twitter points out that this will be the first time Junior's been playable in 20 years.
Good grief.
last seen in Mario Tennis for the Nintendo 64.
Wow.
Yeah, in
What about Game and
2000.
Watch Gallery?
Um, no, I don't.
That might be an exception there
Mm.
to to contradict that official line. But yeah, this is interesting. I noticed, or I didn't notice, but someone else pointed out that Junior looks exactly like he does in Super Mario Kart, right down to the graphical error where
Mm-hmm.
his leotard or whatever it is has what looks like a V on it because instead of doing a J, they just have it's mirrored. All the sprites are mirrored to save graphics memory or whatever.
Mm. You're right.
And
He would
they
be
kept
in
that problem.
game. Yeah, they did keep that problem. I don't know. I think
Yeah,
it's charming. And you're right.
yeah,
There
it's
was a Game
fine.
and Watch Gallery
Authentic, whatever.
released after Mario Tennis.
I knew it.
That'd be
Haha.
Game and Watch Gallery 4. And I guess if we're splitting hairs, there was also a whatever you call those transformation mushrooms in Mario Maker 1 for Wii
True.
U.
But then you're just Mario in
Yeah,
disguise.
then you're just Mario in disguise. um, yeah.
And if you want to get even more technical, the current Donkey Kong is Junior grown up.
Yes, that's super true.
But
This is
Junior as a
indisputed
character
fact, and
design.
we won't be discussing that.
Absolutely. Why would we?
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, there was an interesting
Yeah.
question that came up on
Mm.
the stream of thieves, the DK Vine Sea of Thieves stream weekly,
Hmm.
where Chris Alcock is usually just hanging out in the audio chat for the
That's
stream,
cool. Yeah.
and he brought up a thing that's been floating around, I guess, because Heil had put up a post with the Kong family tree, and it was
Mm.
like, okay, we're not going to get into Junior being modern Donkey Kong. What we're going to get into is if Cranky is indeed his grandfather who raised him like a son, is
Mm.
the missing generation a Cranky's son or Cranky's daughter? And so they spitballed this for a little bit and came to the conclusion that it would be more likely for the grandparents to raise him if it was a missing mother rather than an absent dad,
Interesting.
because they felt like if it was just the dad who was absent, they'd be helping his mom take care of him rather than raising him wholesale.
Mm. Gender stereotypes.
Yeah. I put forth that Congo Bongo is obviously the lazy missing generation. Just look at him. He's lounging around in that throne, waiting to get his toes set on fire.
My current theory on it is that Cranky is Donkey's father, or papa, as they used to say
Mm.
in the arcade era. And as he aged, he suddenly, felt really old. So he started calling himself Donkey's grandfather to,
Yeah, they
uh,
just call him Gramps endearingly.
yeah, or it's like to reflect his mental state of feeling old and discarded, as
Mm.
well as distancing himself from his son, who was becoming distant from him, as evidenced in the Donkey Kong Country intro, where they're quite antagonistic to each other.
Mm.
But by the time of DK64, their relationship has improved to the point where Cranky feels comfortable calling Donkey his son again.
I once noted that if you kind of follows Cranky's progression over the course of the original games, um, in Donkey Kong Country 1, he's in a rocker with a single cane. In Donkey Kong Country 2, he's up and about, but he's got two canes that are helping him walk around. In Donkey Kong Country 3, he's a lot more spry and he's playing like carnival games, getting his arm back, throwing those balls at targets and stuff. In Donkey Kong 64, he's working on potions that grant like super strength and stuff. In Donkey Kong Country Returns, he's perfected those and is just selling those potions. And by the time Tropical Freeze rolls around, he is in good enough shape to just roll up his non existent sleeves and do it himself this time and join in on the adventure again. So he's
That's
kind
an
of gone
excellent
through this
observation.
rehabilitation arc over the
Yeah,
course of the series.
and whether it's by magical potion or just, you know, uh, positive thinking and exercise, he's gotten
Mm-hmm.
back into fighting shape.
Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah, cool. So the only other thing from the entire Super Mario Brothers anniversary presentation that is remotely relevant to the arcade era was the relisting of Super Mario All Stars onto the current Switch Online SNES service,
Yeah.
because it contains Super Mario Brothers. No, it contains Super Mario USA, which
Mm-hmm.
is a remake of Doki Doki Panic, which is a game that we cover on the site.
Yes.
So
So
go and
yeah.
play it.
Yeah. Go play it.
Yeah.
Show Birdo some love.
Mm-hmm.
Lord knows she needs it. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
she got some nice moments in Origami King. I can't
Oh,
really
nice.
complain there.
That's cool.
There's a really great moment where Olivia's just fangirling out over her because you kind of get literally roped into watching this stage production with Birdo in it, and Olivia has no idea who Birdo is, so she's just got these little commentary bubbles that are popping up as the stuff on stage is going by, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh, who's that? Oh my god, I love her." It's like the most adorable thing.
That's really sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did mention on a previous episode that, as far as we were concerned, was it the fight of no Sidestepper was the only arcade era stuff in Origami King, but yeah, we didn't mention that Birdo's there and
Yeah.
has that
Yeah.
kind of role in the game. Yeah.
Birdo's been in almost all the RPGs actually.
Yes.
Usually just for a hot minute.
Yeah. Sometimes
Um
just a cameo.
and like especially in the last couple Paper Marios, like in Sticker Tar, she literally just comes in to sing a random song
Yeah.
and knock a goat statue your way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in Color Splash, she gets a little bit more. She gets like an actual little stage number, but then exits stage right and is not seen again for the rest of the story. But in Origami King, she's actually just sort of a running background thing through the first couple chapters of the game. Like she shows up near the beginning, and then is just sort of in the background for a bit, and then you run into her proper in this later chapter, and she's got this. It's sort of a stage thing, but it's an interactive one that you take part in. So you're actually doing stuff with her over the course of this
Like a
uh,
panto.
tower that is like the boss tower, and you have to go through all these challenges that take the form of these stage production things,
Hmm.
and you're doing a bunch of them with Birdo. Um, which culminates in a giant smooch that like overheats Olivia because she's like, "Oh my god, Mario, that's so scandalous." And it's just great. I love it. So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
Mhm.
So I think that's everything we had to cover before we
Yes.
get to the topic.
Yes, and as I said, the topic is this Super Donkey prototype, but
Woo.
we will also be talking about Yoshi's Island proper, as well as some of its sequels and the whole general prequel era that is the Yoshi series.
Yeah, it segues quite nicely into that, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've been thinking about doing an episode around this stuff, waffling over whether to cover like just Baby Donkey Kong or the Yoshi's Island games proper, and this Super Donkey prototype is, as you say, a nice segue to just sort of encompass all of it.
Hmm.
Um, as for the Super Donkey prototype itself, it's a pretty bare bones prototype. There's not a whole lot there. Um,
Yeah, they were clearly just tinkering with different
mhm.
concepts
Yeah.
uh, and trying to work out what the game would be.
Hmm.
And this represents an early stage of development before they'd really decided that it was going to be a
Mm-hmm.
Yoshi game.
Yeah.
Um, so it was
Um,
sort of a follow up to DK94 at this point. No, it wouldn't have been because this is pre DK94.
yeah, this is
You say,
predating 94. They
yeah,
must have been working on this early 1993, and we know this
mm,
from developer interviews for Plock,
yes,
um, where the developers
the Pickford brothers.
they'd submitted Plock to be published by Nintendo on the Super Nintendo, and had been politely turned down because Nintendo was working on something similar internally, and what we can now surmise they were talking about. It was speculated that they were talking about Yoshi's Island, which bears some surface level similarities in how they did the animations. But
Mm.
this Super Donkey prototype has a lot more similarities in that respect because, like Plock and later Rayman,
Mm.
the player character in the Super Donkey prototype is like a disembodied torso with floating limbs and head that is are all sort of animated individually for this really kind of fluid marionette animation system that I
Yeah,
actually really
it's
like. I love the look of this.
yeah, it's amazing. And let's talk about that protagonist. There's data in the game files to
Hmm.
suggest that this was going to be Mario, and there's versions of these sprites that exist that have Mario's face and his moustache. There's even we noticed while playing it, there's one animation frame where a moustache appears on the face of this character briefly, which
Yeah,
must have been a leftover.
they actually
But
found full body Mario sprites, so the
yes,
overalls and everything.
yeah, and a lot
Um,
of work in extracting graphics from these files has been done by the user Nintendo Metro, and they've been
yes,
posting their findings on Twitter and Tumblr,
big
and
props
possibly
to
elsewhere.
them.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but
is there a central place for all this stuff?
if there is, I haven't figured out how to find it. I've basically just been checking in on Nintendo Metro,
Yeah. Okay.
and the Super Donkey stuff had kind of sort of trickled to a halt, which is why
Mm.
we decided that it was probably time to actually do this episode.
Yeah, we wanted to give it time for
Hmm.
more information to come out. The cutting room floor has pretty good articles about them, and I feel like over time, Nintendo Metro's findings will be imported into there. I think there's
Hmm.
sort of banners to that effect.
Yeah.
But for now,
Um,
you kind of have to do a little bit of digging to find all the stuff
yeah.
about it.
But so, um, in the meantime, it's not Mario that's playable in these
Mm,
prototypes. It's
yes.
this guy in it's kind of a flight outfit. He definitely has like a bomber helmet on, like the leather
Yeah.
helmet with the goggles.
Yeah, an aviator
Um,
cap kind of thing.
yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Hmm.
And then he's got like sort of a goldenrod shirt and hiked up red pants and boots and gloves.
Yeah, and our
Uh,
friend Drubus, aka Qburn, has done some nice fan art of this character.
yes,
Yeah.
he has, and just some general really nice fan art of this guy has come out, and I'm super pleased with it. I hope he gets more love. Um, and the people on Tumblr and Twitter and whatnot immediately drew two comparisons to this guy. They were immediately either started labeling him as Stanley
Hmm.
or as the Sky Skipper from Sky Skipper.
Ah, Mr. U.
Mr. U, that's no, that's a mistranslation. Stop that. um, and of course, we just fanwank that those are the same character anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Stanley, yeah. So yeah, um,
So yet another starring appearance for Stanley, the
yeah.
Bugman
Starring
Man
appearance of Stanley, the Bug Man
slash pilot.
slash pilot, Captain Stanley, if you
Mm,
will.
mm, I
Um,
will.
opposite Donkey Kong. Um, and yeah, he can do a lot in this prototype. There's an energy bar that you can just sort of hold down to fill up, and when it's full, he can fly around in sort of a
Yeah.
pre Super Mario 64 flying around sort of thing.
It's strange. It
Um,
almost reminded me of the cape from Mario World, but it's a lot more versatile, and you can
yeah, it
just do
is.
it at any time. It's
Mm-hmm.
really a fascinating mechanic, and obviously, it's not like finished or polished at
Mm-hmm.
all. When you activate flight, you can immediately start flying through the level geometry, fly
Mm-hmm.
out of bounds, fly off screen, and possibly not come
Yeah.
back.
I imagine that
Um,
would have been a bit more regulated in the final version, and I also
Absolutely,
imagine
yeah.
like you would have filled up the bar by like collecting stuff and not just be able to charge that up at will.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's been a few games where you can sort of charge up a thing and then fly almost at will.
Mm,
The first thing that came to mind for me was Poppin' Twinbee Rainbow Bell Adventures on the
mm,
SNES,
okay.
which has a sort of mechanic like that. It's a kind of mid-air boost thing like you'd get in Rocket Knight Adventures or even Cave Story later on.
Okay.
But this has a lot more control over the flight. It's not completely
Hmm.
free because there's sort of momentum mechanics and diving and
Yeah.
stuff. So there's a
And
bit of trickiness to it.
the marionette nature of how the character sprites are strung together,
Mm.
since like the feet and hands and head or and torso are all individual sprites, um, has a very sort of, I don't want to say like flash animation feel to it, but it allows a lot of dynamic posing as you're making the character kind of do loop de loops and flying around in different
Yeah,
directions and stuff.
and he has a lot of character in those animations, doesn't he?
Yeah.
When you start flying, he just holds his arms out to the side like he's
Mm-hmm.
playing airplane.
Yeah.
Um, it's very cute.
Mm-hmm. Um, and then aside from that, like he can hold on to ledges and pull himself up,
Mm-hmm.
or
And
grab,
vines, yeah.
yeah, vines, grab things and run around with them.
There's
Like,
different levels of crouching to get under
yeah,
different blocks
it's
in front of you.
it's
Yeah,
actually kind of everything Mario can do in Super Mario 64. Actually, now that I think
that's a
about
good
it.
point. Yeah, huh?
Um, and we know from like Donkey Kong 94 that they'd been playing
Mm.
around with a lot of that stuff.
The triple
Um,
jumps and the backflips and such.
and
Yeah.
the handstanding and whatnot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the player character who I'm just going to refer to as Stanley is, yeah, he's pretty
Sure.
versatile and can do a lot in these prototypes. I say prototype because there's two different ROMs. There's like a side A and a side B, and the first one has a,
Yeah, the way that the cutting room floor uh, splits it up is that Super Donkey 2 is sort of what they regard as Super Donkey, and then Super Donkey 1 is a prototype for that.
mm,
I don't know if that's
uh,
really accurate, but
I mean, that's
they're,
how they're going
yeah,
to classify it, I guess, just
eh,
because of how their
yeah,
site's laid out. But
they're in this folder called
yeah,
Donkey Test, and then
yeah.
you just get to these two bin files that are labeled 1 and
So
2.
Super Donkey 1 has two levels. The first of which is
Mm.
gigantic and actually has foreground and background layers and
Yeah,
doors that like take you between them. Um, but not a
yeah,
whole lot
which
else going on in that
sort of
level.
happens in some later Yoshi games.
Um, and then the second level in Super Donkey 1 is just sort of a hallway with some giant blades that are sort of swinging back and forth from the foreground to the background, sort of
Mm.
showing off like Mode 7 scaling capabilities and what you can do with that beyond just rotating sprites.
Yeah, and
Um,
this is before the Super FX chip was a part
mm,
of the Yoshi's Island design, which
yeah,
facilitated a lot of the sort of pseudo 3D
because like
obstacles
that
and
was
the
that
sprite
was
scaling
yeah,
and stuff. Yeah.
there was some big stuff in Super Mario World. Was a lot of the rotation stuff and like the squash and stretch
Hmm.
they did. So they were showing that off a lot in Super Mario World, but yeah, these prototypes show off a lot more of the sort of background foreground. Like we don't have to make separate sprites for those because we can just do like scaling and manipulate them to do some of this like swinging towards and away from the camera stuff,
Hmm.
like stuff they would later do in Wario Land for the Virtual Boy,
Hmm. Oh yeah, sure.
sort of things. And then the second prototype, Super Donkey
S-
2,
yeah, side
um,
B as you call it.
yeah, side B, is just sort of a string of more conventional levels. It's like three or four levels and then a boss. And each level is sort of showing off a different thing. Like one level actually has like enemies and a power up in it, which is this little jar that like spits out missiles.
Mm.
um, and like trees that you can knock fruit off of, and has like these little monkeys and those little roly bug things.
Mm.
And
And this
then
is the grabbing and carrying mechanic. You can do that with a couple of
yeah,
the enemies, or with the
yeah,
monkey at least.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can grab the monkeys, you can grab the missile jar,
Mm.
you can shake the trees. You can also ground pound to get the stuff off the trees. I forgot
You
that
can
you can ground.
climb on the side of the trees, BC
Yeah.
Kid style,
hmm
or bonk
Um,
as you would call it.
and then like the next level has, I can't remember specifically. One of the later levels has some like big
Well, yeah,
crushing
the
sections and
the
whatever.
first level in part two has the first element that carries directly through to Yoshi's Island because the melon bug who rolls up into a ball is in some of the jungle levels.
Ah, that is very true.
Mm.
And I think it's one of the later levels in the Side B prototype has a background texture that made it into the final game as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
Um,
level two has a bunch of houses in it,
yes.
and there's a bit of wonky collision with them, but you can climb on the roofs, and there's a
Mm,
mechanic where you can press down on a chimney and go down it like it's a pipe in Mario,
yeah, yeah,
and end up inside the house. Well, quote unquote inside. It's not really implemented in this prototype.
yeah. Um, and so yeah, the levels are just kind of showing off different mechanics, and then the boss, um, it's a weird, just sort of abstract creature, and it just sort of bounces around the room a little bit, and you bonk it on the head 3 times, and it does the Yoshi's Island thing of like, oh, this was a bird that had just been made into a monster by magic.
It got
Um,
embiggened.
yeah, I got him biggened. 2 green mana, cast him biggin. Um, so like it's interesting to see that early. Like I wonder if Kamek as a concept of like the wizard that came by and
Mm.
made the bosses was present in early design concepts, if not implemented in the ROM itself.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been Kamek, but I wonder what it would be
Yeah.
in this version of the story,
Um,
or even what the story is, because
yeah.
that's the extent of the content of these prototypes, as
That's
far
the
as
extent of the
what's playable.
yeah, what's
Yeah,
playable.
but there's more in there that you can just extract in form of graphics and stuff,
Yes.
including um, Donkey Kong,
Yeah.
the
And
namesake.
not just Donkey Kong. Junior is there as well.
Yeah, or something
Or
that
yeah, what
we
we're
think might be
assuming is
Junior.
Junior. There's a couple sprite sheets that have just sort of generic gorillas, and one that everyone was kind of assuming like, oh, this one looks the most Donkey Kong-ish of these gorillas on this sprite sheet. But then like an actual proper Donkey Kong sprite sheet was found,
With a lot more
um, with a
animations.
lot more animations and
Mm.
facial expressions and stuff. And then
Mm.
there's an accompanying one that we can only assume is Junior because he looks like the Junior version of this design.
Yeah, and
Um,
for some reason they all have grey fur. I don't know if that's a palette issue or if they were
um,
just redesigning the character or
the
something.
little macaques or whatever they are in the playable prototype also have gray fur.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe this version of Donkey Kong just had gray fur, which whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, that would have been cool. I'm just thinking of Grandpa Kong from the original Donkey Kong Country design pitch book
Mm.
that was it one of the stampers put up on Twitter a while back. Some scans from that,
Mm.
where you before they made the decision to have like Donkey Kong be grown up junior, um, they had Grandpa Kong, who obviously became cranky later, who was like the silverback version of Donkey Kong. So I'm
Mm.
just thinking of like, oh, this must have been like later on in years, Donkey Kong Senior. He's got gray fur.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we talked last week about these interstitial stages of Cranky's development,
hmm
in terms of his his life story.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this could be the first step to him going grey.
Yeah. And you get a little bit of that in one of the DK94 Donkey Kong Country tie-in manga things, I want to say.
Yes,
Yeah. There's sort of an interstitial stage where Cranky is still big and buff, but is
graying at the
going
temples.
gray. Yeah.
Yeah, and balding.
Hmm.
Yes.
And then he shrinks and becomes Cranky Kong. Very Japanese age progression thing going on there.
Yes. The prototype also has no sounds or music, but another thing in the game files is a MIDI version of Mozart's Eine kleine Nacht music,
Yes.
which kind of calls back to Mario Brothers arcade, sort of using
Hmm.
classical
Yeah.
tracks as jingles.
And then there's some other stuff in the Donkey Test folder. There's what has been determined to be a.
Can we cover the one more thing about? Oh no, is that part of the hook bill thing that you've got there?
Yeah, I think
That's later on, I guess.
it's unclear where that's from because a lot of. Since I'm not entirely sure how to extract these textures myself,
Mm.
we've been relying on these Twitter updates for a lot of this info. But
Mm.
there's a prototype hook bill sprite set where he has much more of an abstract Muppet alien look to him, which is very much in line with the one boss from the side B Super Donkey ROM. Has that sort of Muppet-y look to it as well.
And color scheme, yeah.
Yeah.
The face is a little bit Birdo-esque,
Yeah, it is a little bit Birdo-esque. I picked up
but
on
it's also got a shell on, and that just evolved into
that.
Hook Bill the Koopa in the final game. So this
Yeah.
might be from one of the early Yoshi's Island ROMs after
Yeah.
it had become Yoshi's Island, but we're
Mm-hmm.
not really sure.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, as for other stuff we found or that was found in the Donkey Test folder.
yeah, there's a prototype for a game. I can't remember the specific title, but it's like you're playing a sleepwalker and like putting down springs and ramps for him so that he doesn't die on his sleepwalking journey.
Hmm.
And there's also some Link sprites, like Legend of Zelda Link, that
Yeah, Adventure of Link
people,
specifically.
yeah, people are speculating that it would have been a BSX Adventure of Link remake in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
style of the BSX Hyrule Fantasy remake.
Yeah, there
Um,
was some graphics that were extracted that showed world maps or like a world select screen, and we were
yeah,
like analyzing the little thumbnails for what content could have been in Super Donkey, but it just turned out that we think that was for the sleep game.
yeah.
Um,
It's still interesting to
because
speculate, though.
yeah, it's just odd that there's a lot of stuff for different game prototypes included in the Donkey Test folder, almost
I,
as if it was sort of like a playground game jam kind of thing happening there.
yeah, I can only assume that they were games built on the same engine, like just using
Hmm.
the Super Donkey engine.
Sure.
Because Nintendo does like to make very versatile engines.
Mm-hmm.
Like Star Fox and Ocarina of Time were both on the Super Mario 64 engine, for instance.
Yes.
So, um, we were just talking about that in one of the chats. Someone was commenting how it was pointed out to them that the time manipulation thing in the clock level in Super Mario 64
TikTok
wasn't
clock.
in TikTok Clock isn't really used anywhere else. And then I pointed out that Majora's Mask basically uses that functionality, but like game wide instead of on a singular level.
Good point.
Um, so yeah, but yeah, it's a super interesting look that like Nintendo was already sort of working on a Donkey Kong revival before Rare got involved a year or so later, or
Mm.
later that year, I guess, because they would have started working on it and then released it in 1994.
Yeah, so the
Um,
speculation is that Rare came to the intention of Nintendo in terms of wanting to do a Donkey Kong game, and we don't know who approached who. Um,
oh no, we super know that story. It's
Go for it.
a Nintendo America representative was just doing sort of a tour of overseas studios, and stopped in to see how Rare was getting on with, I think it was Killer Instinct or something, because they were doing the ACM stuff, and he was
Mm-hmm.
curious to see what that was. And he saw what they were capable of on these workstations. And we know that Nintendo had been toying around with some pre-rendered graphic stuff.
Mm.
We'd kind of known that, but you actually see some early attempts at that in some of the other early versions of Yoshi's Island in these leaks.
Mm.
Um, and the story, as has been related, is he saw what they were doing and was like, "Holy shit! Hey, I've got a project for you guys."
Is this Howard Lincoln?
Maybe I'm not super up on the story,
Okay.
but he basically was the one who then got Rare directly involved in working on the Donkey Kong revival that became Donkey Kong Country in the end. So,
Fascinating.
but it had been kind of previously assumed that like it was seen what they were doing and it was decided to do something with them, and it was eventually decided on that this would be a Donkey Kong revival, when now it turns out that Nintendo had been working on a Donkey Kong revival internally, but obviously couldn't quite nail down what they wanted,
Mm.
and then saw what Rare was doing and was like, ooh, okay. So
And then, yeah, possibly this is where the speculation comes in, I guess. Uh,
yeah,
handed them Donkey Kong, and so in turn retooled their Donkey Kong project into a Yoshi game.
yeah, basically
Possibly.
that's the speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it turned out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's just really interesting that Yoshi's Island, one of the most well known and popular games
mhm,
in Nintendo's history, really,
yeah,
started as a Donkey Kong game, and there's all
yeah,
this intertwining backstory to it.
yeah, and it puts a lot of stuff in Yoshi's Island in a new light, really,
Mm.
um, because like, um, well, do we want to transition into talking about Yoshi's Island proper, or do we have more to talk about on Super Donkey still?
I think we've about covered it because the Super Donkey prototype, like you said, it's quite barren, bare
Yeah.
bones, not much to it. They obviously didn't get super far along before
Okay.
retooling it into Yoshi's Island.
So, one of the things in Yoshi's Island are these little monkey chaps called grinders, and I refuse to call them ukikis because whoever made the decision to change that was dumb. Although I would guess they probably did it because of the connotations of a certain app that people use.
Surely
Um,
that's not that old.
uh, the change over to calling all the grinders ukikis.
The app, I mean, wasn't that Yoshi's Island
Uh,
DS that?
uh, I have no idea. I've never used the
Uh,
app.
yeah,
Um, so you got these little monkeys called grinders, obviously from organ grinder, um, sort of thing.
yeah. There are a lot
Um,
of wacky names for enemies in
yeah.
Yoshi's Island.
And the cutting room floor kindly lets us know that in the files is a like grinder version of Donkey Kong with a little tie that throws barrels,
Mm.
and so it's a bulkier one, and everyone was like, "Oh, cool, a little Donkey Kong Country nod that didn't make it into the final game." But now it's like, oh well, if Yoshi's Island started out as the original version of what eventually became Donkey Kong Country, it would kind of make a lot more sense that there
Mm.
were some Donkey Kong Country references or Donkey Kong references
Yeah.
in the game.
And well, it should be noted that the grinder Kong that's in the unused content for Yoshi's Island doesn't really look like the Donkey Kong that we see in Super Donkey.
No, it's got like the same head as the grinders. It's just got like a bigger, bulkier body.
Yeah, and nor indeed do the grinders look exactly like the monkey in Super Donkey that's roaming through the
No.
first level on
Um,
part two.
um, a quick side tangent though.
Mm.
In Super Mario 64, which has Tall Tall Mountain, which has the monkey called Ukiki, which is where what all the monkeys in the Mario series are now called off of
Mm-hmm.
this monkey in Super Mario 64. In the game's files, Tall Tall Mountain is referred to as Donkey Slide. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah, so this um our friend of the podcast and community member Borp slash Manfrog has speculated that they might just refer to all the monkey stuff in Donkey Kong terms internally.
Hmm.
Um yeah, I don't know, but that's yeah another neat little connection. It's sort of interesting to see how many times explicit Donkey Kong stuff has almost popped up in Mario games over the years. So you've got like, oh, Yoshi's Island was almost a Donkey Kong game, and there
Mm-hmm.
looks like there might have almost been a Donkey Kong reference in Super Mario 64. And then like we know they wanted to use Donkey Kong or some of the party apes or something from Jungle Beat in Galaxy 2, and
Mm-hmm.
there's this conspicuous space monkey NPC who shows up in one area.
The chimp.
Um, and then like they wanted to you have an explicit Donkey Kong appearance in Odyssey, but were vetoed, which is why he only shows up in like wall art sprite form and stuff
Hmm.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Yoshi's Island has this kind of shadow identity as part of this Donkey Kong
Hmm.
lineage, and the grinders are a leftover of that in a way.
Yeah. Um,
I wanted to draw a parallel as well to DK94, which has the Monkiki,
yes.
which is the one character who is sort of friendly in the game,
Hmm.
and it's a monkey hanging its tail down, and then you can climb on the tail.
Hmm.
Um,
But yeah,
yes.
Yoshi's Island also just in general introduces us to Baby Mario and the concept of this prequel era of the games that goes even further back than like the arcade games taking place before the Super Mario Bros. Games,
Hmm.
because obviously Mario is a literal newborn in
Hmm.
this title. Um, which comes into more play in later games as more babies are introduced.
Hmm.
Um,
But another reason why Yoshi's Island is sort of relevant to our purview is
yes.
because it it's carries on a sort of spiritual uh,
Spiritual
essence.
legacy.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to say lineage again. That's what I've got written in the notes, but I
Yeah.
just said it anyway. Yeah, it's sort of carrying on a lot of stuff from Doki Doki Panic, basically.
Yes.
And it's a
Uh,
vector by which a lot of Doki Doki Panic stuff made its way into the Mario series. Most specifically Shy Guys, but
hmm.
there's other stuff too, like Mousers and so on.
Yeah. Shy Guys, Mousers. Well, specifically Little Mousers, which are now just called Mousers because you had the boss Mouser in Doki Doki Panic, which then
Mm-hmm.
made its way into Super Mario Bros. 2 USA. But then Yoshi's Island had Little Mousers, which were like the non-boss mob enemy version of Mouser,
Mm.
which kind of live in Yoshi's Island and various spin-offs, um, like the RPGs and whatnot.
Mm. And they brought in Fry Guy as a Shy Guy that's on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and they have giant crabs that
Mm-hmm.
sort of carry through claw grip
Yeah.
um, identity, and like Sniffets, as well as all the stuff that already came into 3 through Doki Doki Panic, like
Yeah.
Pokies and Bob-Ombs.
Mm-hmm. And then just sort of the, I guess more on a high concept level, the concept
Mm.
of using enemies as ammo and
Yeah,
projectiles
and
for
this is
things.
something I really like about Yoshi's Island is the interactivity with your environment and with enemies and other objects in the world.
Yes.
And this is something that you see going through Doki Doki Panic, DK94, and Yoshi's Island, and
Mm-hmm.
the rest of that series.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
So yeah, pretty much Yoshi's Island games and the Mario versus Donkey Kong games are the places that like Shy Guys and other Doki Doki enemies live,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah, the Yoshi's Island continuing series is kind of this
Hmm.
cousin to Mario versus Donkey Kong.
Yes, and there's even a bit of a fan theory that Prince Froggy from Yoshi's Island is Wart,
Mm-hmm.
because he's the only boss that doesn't blow up and explode when you defeat it in Yoshi's Island. And obviously he's royalty. He's Prince Froggy,
Yeah,
so everyone's like, hmm. So I
younger
don't know.
frog. Yeah, it's
I
good
like
stuff.
that nice little connection.
Mm-hmm.
Pity Birdo's not in it. That would have been something.
Yeah, like our friend Michael Julius Peterson has an artwork which is like a hypothetical what the Yoshi's Island series could have been, and it's Yoshi against Wart with both their tongues lashing out at each other, which is a little bit
Hmm.
of a weird image, but and Birdo's there as a rival character, and there's all these dinosaurs and stuff.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
it is really cool. Um, as sort of real world commentary, that was
Mm.
sort of it for the Yoshi series for a while. Um, Yoshi's Island was pretty one off. Like Yoshi appeared in
Yeah,
a bunch of other stuff. He was very, very much a phenomenon. Um, but Yoshi's Island was pretty standalone at the time. And when Yoshi's story was announced some years later, it was kind of a big deal.
yeah. The whole identity of Yoshi was a little bit split in these days because he was
Yeah,
introduced in Super Mario World, and then there were a bunch of puzzle games that featured him, like
yeah,
Yoshi's Egg, Yoshi's Cookie, and those were all building on this like adult Mario Yoshi kind of
and
setting.
yeah, like Yoshi's Safari.
Yeah,
Um,
Safari as well. The only thing that really brought the Yoshi's Island look and aesthetic back was the reskin of Panel de Pon into Yoshi's
yes,
Panapon.
for Tetris Attack.
Yeah, Tetris Attack is a dumb name, and
It
it's the reason
super
why they can't
is.
re-release it. So it's
Hmm.
ridiculous, and I hate it.
Which didn't have Baby Mario in it, interestingly
No,
enough.
yeah, and
Um,
it also brought the Super Mario World style baby Yoshis into the Yoshi's Island aesthetic.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I do like actually.
Mm.
Um, Baby Yoshi needs to show up in more things.
Well, he
Um,
did in
yes, he
Yoshi's
did.
Story, and they redesigned what he looks like.
But the actual
Anyway,
Baby Yoshis showed up in some of the new Super Mario Bros. Games, which I
that's true.
appreciate.
Hmm.
So Yoshi's Story was announced a handful of years later for the Nintendo 64, and
And it really reinterpreted the world of Yoshi.
yeah, it's actually sort of stealthily the first game in the Paper Mario series.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
because in the original Japanese, Paper Mario was Mario's story following up Yoshi's story as the
Hmm.
storybook interpretation of the Mario games. Um,
And everything
and
has the crafted aesthetic.
yeah, everything has the crafted aesthetic, which unfortunately just dominates Yoshi these days, where the point of the games is more the aesthetic than the gameplay.
Yes.
um, but so Yoshi's story in and of itself, um, not a whole lot to talk about as far as the arcade era is concerned.
Well,
I
no.
love it. I love the heck out of it. I love its non-linear nature and the fact that you can go through a bunch of different combinations of branching paths going through the game. Yeah, it's short to do one single playthrough, but if I kind of feel like you're missing the point if you just do one single playthrough and then put it down and never play it again. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I really liked it as a kid. I
I
still like it now.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I think it's interesting.
Also, Black Yoshi's the best Yoshi. Don't at me. Um, um, but
I don't think that's
Yoshi's
controversial.
Yoshi's story did give us. It did begin the boom of Yoshi spin-offs set in the Yoshi's Island period. Um, so off the back of Yoshi's story, we got stuff like Topsy Turvy or Universal Gravitation, depending on your release
Mm.
region, as well as when the DS came out, the sort of tech demo-y Yoshi Touch and Go game, before eventually giving us Yoshi's Island DS or Yoshi's Island 2, depending on your release region. And
I thought that was just the
I
beta
swear
name.
it released as Yoshi's Island 2 in at least one reason. I'm going to look this up real quick, and I'm going to type loudly into my mic.
Okay, well, I'll bring up one more footnote, which is that, and this is very relevant to the arcade era. In Game and Watch Gallery 3, they had, as one of the available games to play, Greenhouse, which,
Ah,
as we all know,
yes,
stars
yes.
Stanley the Bugman as the
Ah,
Fumigator. And they reconfigured it in Game & Watch Gallery 3 for the Game Boy Color to star Yoshi in a Yoshi's Island style environment. There's Fly Guys and
hmm.
Grinder to keep away from your plants. Um, so this is another kind of quite concrete link between Yoshi's Island specifically and
You know, I never
the
picked up
Donkey
on that.
Kong
I'm
and
always usually just being
expanded.
angry
Yeah,
at them removing Stanley from Donkey Kong 3 and making it Mario versus Donkey Kong in a boo house.
yeah,
Good, thank you.
yeah.
Um, uh,
But there's some good stuff in those Game & Watch Gallery games,
uh, do, 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 do.
including a starring role for Princess Peach. You know, I'll bring that up again later. There's the Yoshi Story GBA tech demo. At certain trade
Mm-hmm.
shows, they showed off the Game Boy Advance hardware by putting a Yoshi Story style, like simple platformer on there. There's new stuff in there that's not in Yoshi Story, like
Mm.
bullet bills and such, as well as a rotating 3D map of Yoshi's Island, which now, much like Donkey Kong Island in post country
Mm-hmm.
era, looks like a giant Yoshi with outstretched
Yeah.
arms. It's a
Well,
little
I
bit
was
freaky,
wrong. Never
actually.
actually released as Yoshi's Island 2 in any region, but
I
it
knew it.
was called that late enough in the day that like release artwork exists of Yoshi's Island 2.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
so Yoshi's Island 2, um, at the time was kind of novel in doing like remixes of Yoshi's Island 1 concepts because Yoshi's Story was fairly original. So Yoshi's Island
yeah.
DS sort of remixed Yoshi's Island stuff. So you have like, oh, plays on the Yoshi's Island bosses and worlds, and it was kind of novel to see that. Now they've
Yeah, it very closely
yeah
follows the formula of the original Yoshi's Island to a
done
fault,
that
some
like
would say.
5 times in a row, and it's really boring now. And
Three
whatever.
times, come on. And well, Artoon only did it twice,
Yeah.
and then yeah,
So instead of like Bashful Burt, you had the Big Burt Bros, and instead of like Naval Piranha, you had the Big Bungee Piranha and stuff like that. Like same archetypes, but
well, there's a lot of original bosses too. I think you're selling it short by just naming
yeah,
those.
I was getting to that. Come
Oh,
on.
sorry, sorry.
I was just,
I'm a defender of Yoshi's Island DS. I
oh
really
no,
like it.
super exactly. I love it too. And I was just going to say that like on a surface level, like, oh look, it's a Burt as a boss again, but the boss fight is markedly different. Like, yes, you
Yeah,
have another Piranha Plant boss, but it plays out completely differently than the Naval Piranha fight. Unlike just bringing back Naval Piranha as another boss fight in Woolly World, for instance. Um,
yeah.
because we can't be original anymore. Um, so Yoshi's Island DS sort of remixes concepts from the original Yoshi's Island, and I like it. A lot of people complain about, I don't know, difficulty level and the levels not being as polished as well designed as the original Yoshi's Island levels, and I
And the
can
art assets
uh,
not matching,
I
and
can agree to a certain extent. Like it doesn't have
mm,
the EAD polish to it, but that doesn't mean it's not a fun game.
it's an
Um,
uncut gem. I really enjoy it.
and of course, it introduces other babies with their own mechanics to the series, which is fucking brilliant. And I don't know why they dropped it after this game. Um, so you
Maybe because it was a little awkward to swap between them, but they could have smoothed that out
yeah,
easily enough.
easily. Like so you have baby Peach with her parasol. Um, you have Baby Wario with a magnet that pulls in coins. You even get Baby Bowser at one point who
Shooting
can
fireballs,
do
yeah.
fire breath. And of course, Baby Donkey Kong, the king of the jungle, the Jungle King, um, who's just super fucking strong and can hold on to vines and stuff. And through, I don't know, sheer thigh power, keep Yoshi up there with him. Um,
He's a powerful baby.
Also, tying back to that backpack friend mechanic that is now a staple of the franchise.
Good point. Yeah, whereas he's the one riding
Yeah,
the other in this
yeah.
case. Yeah, okay.
This is what it feels like,
Yeah.
Kazooie. Um,
Well, personally, I
yeah.
hate this because uh, because it makes it seem like Donkey Kong's world takes place in the same world as Mario, and that is bad.
Why? I've never
Sorry,
understood why this is bad.
I do still think that DK and Mario are in separate worlds, but this
Um,
game is fine. I like it a lot. In
I
fact,
mean,
I was just joking.
that's not super controversial. Like the entire plot of Super Mario Bros. 3 hinges on the fact that the Mushroom Kingdom is like a transitory kingdom between the real world and the Mushroom World, because Super Mario Bros. 3 is all the kingdoms of the Mushroom World that you get to through the entrance that is the Mushroom Kingdom.
The walls of reality are breaking down.
We need to reunite the meteorite, or not, as the case may be. Um, I've always viewed it as sort of
The
like a
merge.
Wonderland situation where like these things exist together but are separate, if that makes sense.
It doesn't, but that's the point of Wonderland.
Yeah. And considering all the other Wonderland parallels in Super Mario Bros., I think that's an accurate way to. I think the best way to view it is you thinking about it too hard. Don't worry about it.
I agree.
Like I totally believe that like the stork dropped Mario in Yoshi's Island as a kid and then went and delivered him to his parents in New Donk City. Uh,
But Gibbon, you're forgetting that he delivered him to the wrong parents, and
no, that
then he
never
had to
fucking
go
happened.
to a different place to deliver them to
I'm
the
not
different
forgetting I gave
parents.
myself a lobotomy. Um,
Yeah, you do have in the notes, New Island doesn't exist.
yep, it's in the notes multiple times, in fact.
Well, but we've got more to cover
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Yoshi's Island DS before we get there.
Yeah, so Yoshi's Island DS, in addition to having Baby DK as one of the babies, it draws a concrete connection to the grinders because he's in the jungle area with the vines and whatnot. But also, there's Snapjaws as enemies in this area.
Straight down to DK Jr.
Yeah, well, not straight out of DK Jr. because in DK Jr.
True.
they're mechanical, and in this one they're
Hmm.
actual little alligator things, not
So you could say that these are
piranhas.
the real creatures that Mario based his traps on when he was
Yes,
building them.
yes, that is
Yep.
what I'm assuming happened there.
Hmm.
Especially since you see more alligator-looking mechanical snapjaws in one of the Mario versus Donkey Kong games. I want to say
Yes.
yes.
I just looked it up. So Snapjaw is spelt with a space in Yoshi's Island DS in English, as opposed to no space for DK Jr. But in Japanese, they're called Wani Wani Kun.
Excellent.
Very cute.
The Mario series has always been a little inconsistent with enemy names.
Oh,
So,
absolutely, 100% inconsistent.
there's the bird enemies from Junior show up in a couple different places, and they're just kind of generically called birds, like toadies or variations on that. But like in one game, it's spelled in katakana. In one game, it's spelled in hiragana. In one game, they're just called birds in English. um, like, but it's all the same enemy. Like you can look at them and go, obviously, this is the same enemy. They have a similar look, and they're doing the same attack pattern.
What's the source that calls them nitpickers, which is the basis for including ice climbers in Arcadia?
I think that's what they're called in like the English manual.
Okay, cool.
Um,
So yeah, the Snapjaws work similarly to how they do in Junior as well, where they climb along the ground and then drop down a vine,
Yeah.
so they can nab you while you're climbing the vine.
mm-hmm.
It's nice. They're definitely a clear reference.
So this is not Baby Peach's debut. Um,
There's one more thing,
yeah.
which was the rocket.
Yes. Right. Right. One of the new vehicle power ups in Yoshi's Island DS is the rocket, And I thought that was kind of neat. And it was originally like, I wonder if we can tie this to Donkey Kong Country 3 somehow. But then I noticed it's the exact same rocket design as the rocket in Doki Doki Panic and Super Mario Bros. 2
more or
USA.
less. Hmm.
So that's another nice callback to that, with the Doki Doki stuff sort of living on in the Yoshi's Island series.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. There's
Um,
also a call forward with
yeah.
minecarts, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just gonna mention that, like, while this wasn't Baby Peach's origin
Yes.
game, this is one like the first time she's playable and stuff.
Yeah, and she's younger in this, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we also get a wider variety of babies than we do elsewhere. Well, I guess later sports games have a nice variety of babies, but we don't care about those. Um, well,
It's too much.
yeah. And as
And only
we
one of them has baby DK, right?
Yes, and as we mentioned in a
Mm.
previous episode, Baby Wario recently reappeared in
Ah, true.
yeah, Dr. Mario
In
World.
Dr. Mario World.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
First time since Yoshi's Island DS.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird where these babies pop up. Speaking of which, the only other time Baby
Yeah,
Donkey
so
Kong has popped
yeah, good
up.
segue. Because we've covered the two sort of main Yoshi's Island games,
Yeah.
but there's a grab bag of other related content
Yeah.
that's worth talking about.
So yeah, speaking of which, the only other time Baby Donkey Kong shows up is in Super Mario Super Sluggers for
Mm-hmm.
the Wii, which is the second baseball game. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, it's kind of an odd place to have him show up. I don't know why he
It
was.
was not released in PAL territories.
Oh, that's lame.
I wanted to play as K. Rool with his new design,
Yeah,
but they don't want me to.
I still want to know where that design came from. Like,
From Namco, I guess.
hmm,
Yeah, it's a Namco Bandai game for the Wii.
when did that come out? Like 2009? When did
2008.
2008? When did Diddy Kong Racing DS come out?
Oh yeah, this is the big debate because we're not sure where the Tiny Kong design came from.
Oh, that's
Somebody might
not
have.
why I'm looking this up. That came out in 2007. But you see, the entire reason Diddy Kong Racing DS exists was as
Uh-huh.
a vehicle, no pun intended, for getting the team familiar with DS hardware, because they had pitched a Donkey Kong Country 4 using the mobile
Yes.
engine to Nintendo, but it was suggested they do this Diddy Kong Racing port as a way of familiarizing themselves with the hardware, which is why Diddy Kong Racing DS has all of this forced integration of every single thing the Nintendo DS can do in it. So I'm kind of wondering if this K. Rool design was going to be in Donkey Kong Country 4,
Oh,
which
that's an
then
interesting
never
point.
happened for reasons.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of, honestly. But anyway, yes,
Well,
Baby Donkey
yeah,
Kong's
and I
in
don't
this
remember
game.
where the Tiny Kong design came from, but I think there is an answer out there somewhere. But yeah, this game has a huge variety of characters.
Yeah,
That's
it
kind of
does.
its selling point. Yeah,
And-
and a very extensive cast that includes 5 Kongs, I guess. Right?
Yeah, like
6.
it's got Donkey and Diddy and Dixie and Funky and Tiny,
Dixie.
and also K. Rool and a variety of
Critter.
color-coded critters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I have no idea why Baby Donkey Kong was used to fill out this roster. I guess because
Yeah.
babies Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Daisy are also in the game, and they just
Well, it's interesting because for a lot of those other characters, they would have had models existing from maybe Jet Race Barrel Blast or the Mario Kart games, but they would have had to create an entirely new 3D model for Baby DK,
yeah,
who had only been in 2D at that point.
and yeah, it's kind of surreal that Baby Donkey Kong was in this game, but I'm here for it. Like,
Oh yeah, it's great.
mhm. Oh, I forgot this also has like Piantas and Sunshine stuff in it. Man,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Super Sluggers was a good game. Full story
I'm
mode.
looking at a screenshot where Baby DK is using a banana as a bat. That's
I
crazy.
mean, that makes sense to me. Um, yeah.
Must be very unripe, but it looks yellow. I don't know. I'm trying to see if he's got any quotes in the game. Because there's like a
Um,
story mode where you walk around and talk to the
there
characters.
is. I can't remember if Donkey Kong and by extension Baby Donkey Kong talk. Um,
Okay, there's a quotes page on Mario Wiki, and there's no Kongs on there at all. That's weird.
does Baby Donkey Kong's page have a quotes section?
Oh no, there's a Dixie Kong. Yeah, so in this game, the Kongs do that thing where they just go ook ook, and then in brackets it says what they're saying.
I see. I see.
So they don't speak English in this context.
Mm.
But the Kremlings do.
Yeah, the Kremlings can just talk. Yep.
Yeah, so there's quotes for Dixie Kong and not any other Kongs on Mario Wiki. That's odd. Anyway.
But yeah, so Baby Donkey Kong shows up there.
Yes.
Was it? And it's this render of him that the plush is based off of, right?
I've got it right here. Hold on a second.
Ooh, I'm jealous. I don't have one of those.
Yeah, it was like $9.
Ooh.
Man, the head is a little misshapen. It's odd. Well, he's not scratching his chin or like finger to mouth. Oh, I guess it looks like him.
Well, I mean, because like for Yoshi's Island DS, they'd only have some sprite art of him, but if you have a 3D model of him, it's much easier to design a plush based off
Okay,
of that.
that's a good point. There is a sort of gap between the ear and the muzzle area, whereas in the render they're connected. Let me see. Tail. Yeah. It's not too far off.
Okay. But yeah. And then
he's so cute as a baby.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot else to talk of pertaining to the arcade era in the rest of the Yoshi franchise. I do want to talk about Partners in Time, mostly because I love the game and I don't think it gets enough respect. But
it's my favorite of the Mario and Luigi games.
Yeah, it's a great Mario and Luigi game. Everyone's crazy. The plot involves time travel, and so a large majority of the game takes place back in, well, not exactly back in the Yoshi's Island period. It's a little further on because baby Mario and Luigi are like in coveralls and not just in diapers anymore.
Yeah, and we'd seen them like this already in Mario Tennis.
Yeah.
And associated.
And this was the game that Baby Peach was introduced in, and we also got to see like younger versions of Toadsworth and stuff. So that's neat.
It kind of implies that Peach is a little younger than them because they're walking and she's riding around still wearing a nappy in a pram.
Yeah.
But equally, she could just be a coddled royal who isn't allowed to get up and about.
This is very true. I did notice when looking at the enemies list that in addition to all of the various Shroob enemies, that Pidgeots are enemies in this one. Which is the only time they've appeared outside of Doki Doki Panic and Mario Bros. 2.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, pretty much. They haven't shown up in much. Yeah. And they appear complete with their magic carpet, which is cool.
Nice.
But just in general, yeah, like that's a nice sort of Baby's era game. You visit Yoshi's Island as one of the locations during the adventure, and so revisit some of those areas and see some, Shy Guy enemies and other masked enemies, because that was a big thing about Doki Doki Panic, was all these masked enemies, most of which were never seen again after this game. But Yoshi's Island sort of carries on the tradition in that, in addition to Shy Guys, there's also like bandits and other enemies that have the sort of mask aesthetic built into them.
This is part of why I love Partners in Time so much, because I love Yoshi's Island so much, and there's basically one of the like worlds or chapters in Partners in Time is just a big love letter to Yoshi's Island.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I do think I would have preferred having a proper like Shroob Yoshi instead of the giant fat Yube fight. But whatever.
What do you mean proper?
I don't know. I was kind of expecting a more one-to-one analog because like you've got the Shroobs, which are little like they're toads but aliens, and you've got the Shroobas, which are Goomba Shroobs
Okay.
and Shribblers and etc. And so I was hoping for like I don't know like something like Boshi to show up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Boshi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and instead it's just this giant fat purple Yoshi basically.
Okay, I can see what you mean. Yeah.
Um, and just more sort of a boss fight object than a character, really. I don't know. I also sort of lament the lack of like Shroob Mario as a rival antagonist. So, but eh.
You get vored by Yube, don't you?
Yeah. I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't gonna put it that way, but yeah, that's technically
Oh.
what happens.
Sorry, I should say you get consumed by Yube.
Yeah. Part of that boss fight takes place inside of him. And then just,
Prefiguring Bowser's inside story.
Yeah. Another reason to not like the Yube fight. I don't know. I know a lot of people really like Bowser's Inside Story, and I just never really cared for it. Like I played through it, but it was like, okay, that was okay. Can we have a good one next?
I agree.
And then just some fun, like, ooh, are the Shroobs related to the Donkey Kong 3 Strikes Back enemies? Speculation.
I'm gonna say no because I went and looked up a screenshot of what they look like.
Yeah.
And they have large humanoid bodies and small heads.
Yeah, I looked it up too, and you're right. They don't really look the same at all, and it's kind of a shame Shroobs really haven't shown up again after this game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's some cameos in later Mario and Luigi games, but I mean, like, properly shown up again. But yeah. And then it's a shame we never got a 3DS entry in this series.
So Yoshi's New Island is okay.
It's not. Don't listen to him.
A kind of interesting-ish conversion of the Yoshi's Island art style into a 3D pre-rendered style graphics. And
well,
it's
that's
kind of
part
more
of the
Yoshi's
problem.
Island-ish levels, which is pretty fun to play, I guess. And it has new bosses, which is my favorite part of any new Yoshi game is the fun giant bosses that they have. Although half of them are kind of puzzle fights against Kamek, which was disappointing.
So part of the problem is that it's not pre-rendered, and it does keyframed animation. It doesn't snap like prior games, which is why a lot of people complain that this game feels really sluggish if you're used to the very snappy
it
motion.
doesn't play well. No. But I guess I meant it looks like it's evoking a pre-rendered style that you would see in maybe the intro cutscene to Yoshi's Island.
It's very much
but that's kind of being generous to it, I guess.
It's sort of this was the height of New Super Mario Bros. So this is the new entry to the Yoshi's games, and I don't really begrudge it for that in and of itself. I don't think the play is as snappy. Like, it's fine, like you said, and the new bosses are they're okay. Mainly the story.
It's just disappointing.
Yeah, it's kind of a disappointing whole.
Especially that, it's made by Arzest, who is the successor to R-Toon, and they didn't improve on what they did before. They made a worse product.
Yeah, they removed the additional babies. They put in the giant power-up because that was the thing in the new Super Mario games at the time. So, of course, we just need to put that in the Yoshi game, too. And then they just reused the same plot, but worse.
Yep.
Like, the plot of Yoshi's Island DS, which I guess we didn't go over, was that Bowser has
Oh
gone
yeah,
back
that's a
in.
crazy plot.
It's Bowser from present day has gone back in time to
And Kamek, yeah. There's two
kidnap
Kameks.
the fabled Star Children, and do something with them, like make kill them or something. I don't know. Bowser's just gonna murder some kids, um,
Sure.
and it turns out that the Star Children are Mario, Luigi, Peach, um, Donkey Kong, and nebulously maybe Wario and Baby Bowser, but they might have just gotten in the way. Um,
No, you do see a sort of still at the end of the credits that shows them all.
oh, it shows all of them. I know that,
Yeah,
like, development-wise, Baby Wario and Baby Bowser were late additions to the thing, so I wasn't.
yeah, but they do get presented in the game as these are the Star Children. It
Um,
is like you
yeah.
said, Peach, Mario, Luigi, DK, Wario, and Bowser,
hmm
as well as Baby Yoshi that
Oh,
you see
right,
at the
right, the
very
Baby
end, who
Yoshi.
is newly
And that's
hatched.
the
And
seven
this,
Star Children because we always have to have seven. It's the magic
sure,
number
why not?
in the Mario series. Um,
And my headcanon is that Yoshi is who is then the sort of protagonist of Yoshi's story, who
hmm,
then has all the starring roles after that, and then
yeah.
is the one that befriends Mario as
hmm
an adult, and you see him in all the spin-offs.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so that's just sort of like the superhero origin story of all of our main characters, basically.
Yep.
But the plot of New Island is Bowser has gone back in time to fuck with Baby Mario. Um, but this time Mario has also come back in time to help out and stop him from doing that, except he
There's
actually
a spoiler.
cares about the consequences of time travel, so he's wearing
Mm-hmm.
a warp pipe the entire time, so you can't tell he's present day adult Mario.
Mm.
Um, but then there's also just sort of this dumb, like, Bowser's doing this because he wanted an amusement park as a kid, so he's trying to get rid of Yoshi and Baby
Mm.
Mario so that they can, like, clear cut the island to turn it into like a circus amusement park. I don't know.
Yeah, on top of the dumb plot contrivance, which is not motivated at all, that the stork apparently took Mario and Luigi to the wrong house and has to go to a different house.
See, this is the thing. There's like four different dumb plots on top of each other in this game. Yeah, and it also just, yeah, the stork, oh, stork made a mistake, so he picks Mario and Luigi back up to take them to their real parents and just sort of shits all over the entire point of Yoshi's Island 1. It's
Yeah, as well as the feeling of the ending of them being finally delivered at
yeah,
the feet of their parents, and then this undoes that
yeah,
whole, yeah,
and just kind
that
of
whole conclusion.
ignores Yoshi's Island DS being a thing that happened and
They could have had yeah, I guess New Island is in between Yoshi's Island and DS. It has to be. Ugh, that's weird. Um,
that still means that, like, there were two times Bowser came back in time to fuck with the kids, but
oh, okay. So it's a later time that he's come back in time to an earlier time. Does that make sense?
yeah, but it's also still
Also,
dumb. Uh,
um, oh, what was I going to say?
there's just way too much going on with the plot, and this bit with the parents was completely unnecessary, and I don't know why it's there.
Oh, yeah, the parents thing. They could have explained that as a consequence of the time travel, but they don't. The stork just made
They
a
also
mistake. It's
just
gone.
could have, like, if they needed to have that in there, they could have done some, like, a this was Bowser lying into the stork or something. Like, Bowser tricked the stork into thinking that he delivered the kids to the wrong parents as a conceit to get the stork to deliver him Mario and Luigi as a way of
Oh,
getting a
yeah.
hold of them. Instead, it's
Okay.
just completely independently. The stork made a mistake, and yeah, like, there are ways they could have done this to make it not a complete dumb slap in the face, but they didn't.
Mm, no. And that's why New Island doesn't exist.
Because, like, that's just a lot of stuff to have going on in a Yoshi game. You know, that's like four different
Mm.
things. Is like the time travel, the, like, we need to do, I want to have a park here, so we're going to destroy the island. the babies were delivered to the wrong place. I guess it's only three plot threads, but like they don't really have anything to do with each other in and of themselves, and they could have sort of wedded them to each other a lot better.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It exists. It's meh. It was the last game in the time period of Nintendo farming out the Yoshi series to outside studios. Because after that we got Woolly
What?
World.
That's still an outside studio.
Is it?
Good feel.
Um, are they an outside studio? Do they do anything other than Nintendo games? Whatever. I just know they
Mm,
got Yoshi off of the back of Wario Shake It, and I'm kind of sad that they're now just the Yoshi studio and they're never going back to Wario.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they're independent. They
Mm,
just get a lot of Nintendo contracts.
yeah, fair enough. Aside from just being meh, New Island doesn't have anything we're interested at DK Girder in. So, neither does Woolly World, really. Woolly World doesn't really have anything we're interested in and of itself.
Nope.
Um, the most,
I like the game,
yeah, it
but
was fine.
yeah.
I played a bit of the 3DS one as well, the port, the Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, because
Mm,
more Poochie's not a bad thing.
mm,
Um, Crafted World is again, it's okay. Like it's very pretty
mm.
to look at. Um, but eh, it's just more Yoshi gameplay. Um,
I guess it's interesting to me how they're sort of carrying on the crafty aesthetic of Yoshi's story, but using the more popular gameplay style of Yoshi's Island
that's very true.
for those ones.
And the
Yeah.
other thing they've brought on from the series is they decided to continue the legacy of New Island and bring the dumb sound design in instead of going back.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of criticism for the music of Crafted World, including criticism coming from the sound designer or composer of Woolly World itself. Yeah, that's a funny Twitter post.
Um,
Anyway.
but Crafted World does actually have a couple things that are mildly on our radar. In that
Hmm.
it has grinders who have long now been called ukikis and been conflated with other monkeys in the Mario series together as one species instead of disparate ones. But it has Uki Kongs, which are sort of bigger, buffer kikis that are just sort of like head and Popeye arms and a bandana. And they like throw stuff and are in levels with barrel blasting and bananas. Um,
Yeah, they kind of remind me of some of the Kong type enemies in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong
they
games.
remind me of Kirby characters. They look like they belong in a
Oh,
Kirby
yeah,
game.
that's fair.
Um,
Yeah.
but they also have Rhinonos, which are these
Mm-hmm.
rhino enemy. Well, they're sometimes enemies. They're sometimes friendly. There's one in specific that there's a level built around helping one find its baby. So you deliver this
Oh,
baby rhinono back to its mother. They remind me of the blue rhinos
that
in Congo
sounds
Bongo.
that sounds like it could have been Poochie. Is Poochie in Crafted World?
I want to say yes. I can't actually remember. I played through this game once and then put it down and never went back to it.
I bought it, but I haven't played it. I lent it to my
Yeah, I
sister-in-law.
got it on
Uh,
release because I still super want to support the Switch and everything, and I actually think Nintendo's doing a really good job with all its original titles for this thing. And then it sat
I
there
bought it
while
as an obligation.
it sat there while I played other stuff, and then I popped it in during a lull between games and just went through it very quickly and put it down and never went back to it.
I bought it as an obligation because I'm such a big fan of the original Yoshi's
I
Island.
mean that too. Like I played the original
Mm.
Yoshi's Island and Yoshi's Island DS and Yoshi's Story so much, and I just kind of don't care about the games that have come out since then,
Mm.
which is just kind of sad. Like it went from really high highs to just sort of being a meh series that just keeps getting entries because people expect more Yoshi games to come out. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't
Can,
see people clamoring for new Yoshi titles the way they clamor for like new Metroid titles or whatever, but they just kind of keep making them.
mm-hmm. I guess they must sell.
I mean, yeah, they must.
Eh.
Yeah,
Can I tell you about one game that I do care about?
do it.
Okay, so Super Princess Peach on the DS
Hmm.
has
Ooh.
some problematic concepts. Yes, let's acknowledge that and move on.
Okay.
But I really view it as part of the Yoshi's Island lineage, and partially this is because of the art style.
Hmm.
It does carry some enemies into it. I think the bat and I can't remember the other one, but there's a few. It's mostly Super Mario World stuff, but yeah. And on top of that, it's got that same kind of interactivity with your environment that I like so much in Yoshi's Island
You know,
and indeed Doki Doki
yeah,
Panic.
I'll buy that. Isn't it like
Hmm.
on the same? It's not on the same engine as Yoshi's Island DS, is it?
I don't think so. It's made by Tosei, and if anything, it's probably on the Starfy engine, and it has a
Mm,
cameo from Starfy.
oh,
But
okay, yeah, I can see that.
it also strangely feels a lot like um, the mid era Mario and Luigi games. I think the design of
Mm,
Peach's castle and stuff
yeah.
is very similar to what you see in those. So yeah, all these things make it feel really cool to me. In addition to that, Paper Mario carries a lot of Yoshi's Island stylings and enemies
Right down to having
along with
like
it.
Raphael show up at one point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
that's true.
and the only other thing worth mentioning in the same breath as that is Mario Party Advance, which similarly
Mm,
has some
yes.
Yoshi's Island stuff. But eh,
I think Mario Party Advance might have been the origin of the conflation of Kikis with grinders because it had Kikis specifically modeled off of the Super Mario 64 monkey
yeah,
rather.
there's a lot of Mario 64 stuff in that game, strangely enough. But yeah, you're right.
Yep. We've obviously poured over
Anyway,
these in way too much detail.
yeah, but those things I've mentioned just now don't really have much to do with the arcade era. It's
Yeah.
just the last dregs of Yoshi's Island as it
Hmm.
scatters out its influence into the Mario series.
Yeah, and of course now that
Yeah.
like Kamek via the new Super Mario Bros. Games has been brought into the modern era, and it's just sort of around. He gets a lot of wonderful character content in Origami King, actually.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, I did notice one thing. Was it you who sort of posted at one point a theory that Kami Cooper, who is the female Kamek in Paper Mario 2,
mhm.
was like Kamek trying out female presenting
Yes, I
look
did say that, and I also said
yeah,
the
before coming out as
the
trans.
Magic
Yeah.
Koopa in Galaxy was also Kamek, because I grew up
Yeah.
thinking Kamek was female, and that's probably
Yeah, it
just
makes sense to me.
me conforming to like stereotypical gender norms because Kamek is in this robe and is kind of cranky and is the one raising baby Bowser. Um,
Yeah, okay.
and so that's probably just me like seeing all those traits and assuming female. But there wasn't really anything to tell me differently until very recently, and I like off the top of my head, I can't point to any specific thing in games that says Kamek's a he. Just that like various out of game profiles are like, yes, he does this, but I'm like, I wonder if the Japanese uses gendered language like that. Like,
Well, in Japanese, Kamek is not even a character. It's
nope,
just
don't give me that
uh,
shit. We're not going there.
but anyway, I do like the theory because it would be a third trans character in the Mario series. But
Oh.
I noticed while looking up Super Princess Peach stuff, there's one of the bosses is a, a Magic Koopa
Ooh.
who wears a purple robe and has glasses that are different from the normal Kamek ones
Ooh.
that almost look slightly like Kami's.
Ooh.
So it's kind of possibly an in between step, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I like it.
Anyway, is that a wrap on that then?
That might be a wrap on that. Um, I think we've kind of trailed off on stuff to talk about with this topic.
It's a great topic. I have loved this discussion.
But yeah, so like the babies have obviously been in like as filler characters in a bunch of sports titles. The Yoshi
Hmm.
games sort of take place in that prequel era. We've now got some definite eras to the Mario universe. We've got the Yoshi games that take place when the main characters are babies. We have like sort of the arcade era where they're younger. We've got the Super Mario Bros. Era where everyone's a bit older.
Hmm.
Um, Depending on where you think the Donkey Kong Country games take place with respect to that, that's sort
Hmm.
of either concurrent or a bit further along than the Super Mario Bros. Games. And one thing the rare games and the Donkey Kong Country games tend to do is have their characters actually aging and growing, which is always nice.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's nice to sort of be able to track like these characters from birth to middle age at this point, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, just kind of neat that way. And it was very cool getting to see the Super Donkey stuff and this sort of what if this had been the way Donkey Kong revived and sort of getting a new look and outing for Stanley, which dovetails super nicely with our like, oh yeah, Stanley's the Sky Skipper theories. Um, so that was
Yeah,
cool
I'm really
too.
pleased with how well that fit.
Yeah,
But if that had gone through to completion, we wouldn't even have the whole baby era.
yeah, that's
So
true.
everything we just talked about would not exist.
Yup, that's super true. So like,
So I'm glad that Yoshi's Island
yeah.
came out
Oh no,
as a
so
result
am
of
I.
this.
Yoshi's Island's great. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But yeah, um, plugs,
Plugs.
plugs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I I thought that sorry, I haven't done much since the last podcast apparently because as I was thinking of something to plug, not much came to mind.
Mm,
But I will plug a game that I have completed in that time.
ooh.
I started it long, long ago, and it's very long. And also, I've taken several hiatuses during my playthrough of it. It's Chrono Cross from Square for the
Yeah.
PlayStation, released in 1999. The awaited sequel to Chrono Trigger, and yet it's very different to Chrono Trigger. So
Yeah.
it might be a little jarring if you're expecting more of the same. And I
Yeah.
really love the world that it builds,
Mm-hmm.
which is slightly undermined by this whole like disc 2 change and then suddenly massive plot exposition dumps, twist on twist. I was manipulating things the whole time. No, I was. And all the Chrono Trigger connections that come in through that. It's a
Yeah.
mess, basically, this game.
Yeah.
So this is why it's like a slightly qualified recommendation. Uh, the fact that there's 45 playable characters makes it just completely unreasonable and has detrimental effects to the story because we know that as a result of having so many characters, they didn't feel that they could do justice to Magus's story continuing in Chrono Cross. So they just cut the fact that this one character was Magus, and as a result, he's really flat. And all the characters are quite flat, apart from, uh,
Like the core
the
three.
main four,
Yeah.
which is Surge, Kid, Lynx, and Harl, who I love dearly.
Mm-hmm. She gets done
Uh,
dirty by the good ending.
yeah, I know. This game is heartbreaking in a lot of ways, good and bad, because parts of the story are really affecting and cool,
I
and parts of it are really convoluted and
yeah.
strange.
I kind of see all the side characters as just sort of a early version of what they're doing in Another Eden, but the template for doing
Yes.
that sort of thing didn't really exist back then.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Because Another Eden has way more characters than that, but it has like its core six that you go through the story with, and then the
Hmm.
rest of them are just sort of bonus, and they get like a mission or two. But because we now have like modern free to play game structures that exist, um, the team was able to have like a concept of how to structure the game such that having all these side characters didn't bog down things, and they were able to properly flesh out the main characters. So
Maybe I should have just plugged Another Eden. Do go play Another Eden. It's free to play on smart devices, and yeah, very accessible. But I guess for more timely, for my own experience, Chrono Cross,
mm-hmm.
it's a little bit harder to access if you have a PS3 or PSP or Vita in with access to the Japanese or US shop. You can download it.
Yes.
But I don't have that, so I couldn't legitimately download it. So I emulated it, but that's okay anyway because it's a quite slow-paced game at times, and like there's all these loading screens between fights and stuff. So I used fast forward a lot when playing this game, which is a feature that the game gives you in New Game Plus mode that really just should have been unlocked by default, just because of the pace thing. Especially for modern times. If they ever re-release it like they did with like Final Fantasy IX and stuff, it would absolutely have fast forward by default and stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I don't expect this game to ever get a proper re-release just because of how Square higher ups seem to hate Chrono Trigger and
so it's never.
I don't know if it's Chrono Trigger specifically or just this team, because like the same core team branched off to do the Xenogears stuff, and a lot of complaints about Chrono Cross are specifically that it has a lot more mechanically in relation to Xenogears than it does to Chrono Trigger. It borrows a lot of its story structure and battle mechanics from sort of Xenogears.
Oh, okay. Well, I just found the changes from Chrono Trigger quite refreshing, and like how much it's doing its own thing was cool to me, and I liked that.
The traveling back and forth between the two worlds and seeing what was subtly different about things, and just I played through it a handful of times as a kid, and just like choosing one dialogue option differently sent the story off in wildly different directions, or didn't affect anything like I thought it would, and that just sort of blew my mind as a kid. So having like I'd played games like Chrono Trigger where a dialogue option would make some subtle changes to the story, but the main path, the main thrust of it was still the same, right? Like those I'd played RPGs where it's like, oh, you get to make this dialogue thing, this dialogue choice, and it affects like this immediate situation, but the game as a whole is still like the same storyline, right? Chrono Cross was mind blowing back at launch because it was like, oh, I chose to go down, I chose to answer this character this way instead of this way, and now the story is completely different. I've met different characters, my party's different, events that happened on my first playthrough now aren't, different things are going on, the game ends differently, and I am gonna start another playthrough and see what happens this time, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of actually a criticism I had with it, because I think that the branches aren't significant enough to encourage multiple playthroughs because a lot of it is repeated. You can do a thing called Continue Plus, where you can pick a specific save point that you've made in advance at a part of the game and then make a different choice. But that only becomes available after clearing it.
And it was super deep and profound when I was 12.
Oh, no, yeah. And especially when you're a kid and you have more time on your hands, that could be really cool.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like optional and missable content in the game that's just so easy to.
I've never seen
completely,
all of it. Like, it's sitting on my shelf.
Yeah, miss out on.
I'm meaning to get back to it one of these days, but like, I'll definitely sit down with a guide.
Yeah, I use the guide for my whole 50-hour playthrough, and because that's kind of how I play RPGs these days. And then afterwards, I watched a speedrun which did it in 7 hours, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I know, right?
But my final point on it would be that even if you don't feel like putting the investment into this quite intimidating on the surface game, the soundtrack by Yasunori Mitsuda is sublime, and definitely check that out.
It is just it's chef kiss It's so good.
Yes, exactly.
It's Emperor's New Groove GIF. Just right. Um, yeah.
Yes, very good stuff. So,
Um,
do you have anything to plug
I
this week?
do. There is a Kickstarter that is active right now, and unless I take a month to edit this episode, will still be active when this episode goes live. Call for a new Virtual Boy game called Yan's World. The Virtual Boy port is actually a stretch goal. They're not making this for the Virtual Boy. It's just sort of in the style of Virtual Boy platformers, and one of the default palette options is that red and black. Um,
The eye bleed, as I call it.
yeah, I'm red colorblind, and playing the game actively gave me eye strain and headaches, or playing the system actively gave me eye strain and headaches, which is a
Mm.
shame because I really love like everything that was on the system, and my parents wouldn't let me play it for medical reasons, which was
That's rough.
very smart of them. Um,
But
but yeah, the
Yan's World.
platformers on the Virtual Boy just sort of all had this feel to them. It's hard to describe it. Like they were all a little floaty. The graphics were all just a little big, sort of. Like there's definitely a look and feel to
Yeah.
platformers on the Virtual Boy, and Yan's World is kind of going for that aesthetic.
Yeah. I think the most prominent one would be Virtual Boy Wario Land.
Yeah, there's
right?
Virtual
But
Boy
we also...
Wario Land, but there's also some others on the system.
Oh yeah, there's others, and we cover on the site Mario Clash,
Yeah.
right? Which is a variant of Mario Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a platformer specifically, but yeah. And so it's going for that sort of feel to it. It's this neat little concept where you can make these little projectile platformer things. Like you carry this little blimp slash torpedo above your head that can like block projectiles coming in from the top, but you can also just throw it out into the level to use it as a platform, but it will also still block things in its way. So sort of strategically placing
Oh,
that and using it to get around.
is it like the Peppa Logo?
It's sort of like Papa Lagoon, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. Um, anyway, it's got an ongoing Kickstarter. I'm very excited about it, as is our friend Tonya. We've both thrown some money at it for the like design a thing in the game tiers, so you might
Fun.
see one of Tonya's personas as a boss in the game.
That's amazing.
I backed
You
for.
should put a Donkey Kong something in it.
I added Heil on Twitter and was like, hey, put Pepito in this. I'm gonna make an NPC for the game. But this is all provided the Kickstarter gets backed. So get on it, people. I want to see a new Virtual Boy game in 2020. Do it.
And I will note that a lot of their marketing uses that eye bleed color scheme that I mentioned. Everything's red on black, but I saw a note that it will have other palettes.
Yes, it does have
available.
other palette options, and actual like their Kickstarter announcement shows like actual
right,
and it's not just other like monochrome palettes. They've actually shown some video and screenshots of it being played in like full color as well.
Oh, that's great. Cool.
So yeah,
Nice.
So I like that as well. I very much appreciate that, as again my color blindness issues. So I like being able to play games I like. I had to stop playing the new Battletoads because there's this one section of the game that like one isn't liking my controller very much, but two is also just completely in red and black with very fine detail. And it's like there's a countdown happening, and I have to pay attention to a lot of stuff that's all red and black on the screen, and it just literally gave me a headache to play that section, and I never got past it.
Too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad. But yeah, so that's my plug. Yan's World.
Cool.
It's on Kickstarter right now. Go take a look
Good
at
plug.
it, and if it looks good to you, I urge you to throw it a couple bucks.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you. So thanks everyone for listening. This has been a great episode. It did balloon a little outwards in
Yeah.
length, but that's all right.
I have no
I
idea
hope you
how
enjoyed.
these episodes with like very short notes end up being 2 hours long.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed talking it.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah,
Face noise good.
that.
We face noised at a microphone to bring you our thought
Yep,
noises. Yep.
doing talking.
Yep, doing
We're doing
talking.
talking. Uh,
Yeah.
I keep forgetting to ask you if we should set up an email or something if listeners want to contact us.
Oh. I keep forgetting that we did.
Did we?
I think we said so in like the first or second episode.
Oh, we said so, but we didn't do
There
it.
is a DK Girder email.
Okay.
I check it every like once a month or so. I've never seen anything come in on it. I don't think
Well,
we
let's plug
mentioned
it.
again. Okay. Yeah, we should totally plug that. It's Gibbon at dkgirder.com. I will try to be super on top of checking it to see if anybody writes in with questions. You can
At
also
least before the next episode.
ping us on Twitter.
Yes.
I'm
Those links are always in the
yeah,
description.
I am Gibbon. No spaces.
I Yes, I'm Milo Scat.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
and you can and obviously we read the comments on the YouTube videos.
Yes, I was very pleased to get one.
Um,
If you'd like, comment on this video and we'll read it in the next episode, maybe.
yeah. So again, that email is gibbon at dkgirder.com. And who knows?
Awesome.
Maybe we'll actually get someone writing in on that. But yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until the next episode, see you next time and be good to those around you
Mm-hmm.
and stay safe.
Yep.
Uh,
Be excellent to each other.
yeah, that's a good one.
I never know how to end us and sign off.
Bye.
Bye.